Alright, there's another edition of Chuck Chats. What we're going to talk about tonight, I just don't know, basically. Let's talk about when I go out for my walks and all that stuff, is what I looked at as pedestrian safety on my end, as basically, is you try to be as safe as possible as a pedestrian when you're out there. Walking along, no matter if it's along the sidewalk, a bike trail, or even along the side of the road, or like the shoulder or something like that, or some bike lane that's where it needs a sidewalk and all that stuff. Anybody else followed us on the main channel probably know what I'm talking about. Alright, a lot of people don't realize when someone is in a crosswalk, here in the state of Iowa, I don't know about other states, I know definitely in California they nail you big time on this one. Whenever the pedestrian is in a pedestrian walk or a crosswalk, that all vehicles must yield to the pedestrian. If the pedestrian's already established that crosswalk, and I think in California, mistake me if I'm wrong, I think is when before you enter the crosswalk, that all traffic must yield to any pedestrians that's entering the crossway there. So tell me if I'm wrong in that, but then I have to go to another YouTube site, tell them they're wrong on their sting operations. And of course I do my walks there almost all times of night. No matter if it's at night, wee hour in the morning, or during broad daylight. For me, the most dangerous for me is actually during the daylight hours, because that's when the traffic is at its heaviest. That's when the traffic is moving left and right. It's harder to pay attention for me. It's also, for some reason, it's harder for the drivers to be focused on the pedestrian end, or they're just too busy texting and driving. So yeah, even for me, like I said, broad daylight is the most dangerous for me and all that stuff. I know there's laws in the books against jaywalking and all that stuff. Come on, raise your hand if you jaywalk, come on. It's not the jaywalk that we thought we were taught when we was kids. When you thought we're at the intersection, instead of crossing like an L shape, you cross this way, that's considered jaywalking. But in recent videos I watched, basically crossing mid-block, crossing the street in mid-block is considered jaywalking. Well, I admit I've done it too, many times. Come on, raise those hands up there, admit it. Come on, admit it. And that, so it all depends on local ordinances and all that stuff, if they want to enforce it or not. When I usually do it, I make sure there's nobody coming from either direction when I do the mid-block cross. Otherwise, I try to stay around try to cross when the road's too busy, then I'll go to the proper intersection to cross there and try to use the crosswalk or crossway. What happens if there's a crosswalk that has no lines in that? As long as you got a clear path to go across, as long as someone is crossing at the intersection, going the proper way, they have the right of way, basically. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't yield to pedestrians. I get hit many times at the stop signs when I'm actually in the crosswalk way or the walkway, or the right of way of the walkway. I usually get almost nearly hit at the stop signs. Okay, about 6 years ago, I just got done crossing the crosswalk, basically, where this one pickup truck comes flying out of nowhere and ran the stop sign, the same crosswalk I did. The stop sign, if I remember, was a two-way stop, but the stop he had to make was the one he ran. Basically, he ran it. He blew it right past it. Yeah, I wish I had YouTube back then to show it to you, but I didn't. That was 6 years ago, and that. But I yelled at him, he yelled at me, told me to mind my own business. I told him if you would have been there a few seconds earlier, you would have been seeing my attorney, basically. That was it. I would have been living wealthy off of that. Also, I know it's dangerous to walk at night, but like I said, as a pedestrian, it's easier for me to see you guys if you have your headlights on. Once again, I crossed at a intersection. Unfortunately, there was no street lights. Unfortunately, a car just almost grazed me with no headlights. Oh man, was I PO'd on that one. But once again, like I said, careless people too. So you gotta be careful as a pedestrian. You gotta be careful. Of course, if you're a pedestrian in most major cities, you better be using crosswalks regardless of time and day because of the high volume traffic. You'd be safer that way. As for smaller communities, it's just up to local law enforcement. It's usually because it's not much traffic and all that stuff, and usually people do look both ways and all that stuff. And also, before I wrap up this video, there was word going around, believe it or not, there's been word going around, possible law in California where they're going to put the end of distracting walking is. As a boost to for pedestrian safety, California is planning to move a law through in the books, if they have not already passed it already. At the time I made this video, it was based on a Hawaiian law where you cannot walk and text or walk or be on your cell phone at the same time. That's considered distracting walking. Basically, it's going to carry a penalty similar to distracted driving. And people go, Chuck, you put a POV videos on your main channel. Is that distracted driving? I do it in a safe manner. A lot of people, I've seen YouTube videos where actually the guy will actually hold the camera while driving. That's distracted driving. When you're on the phone while driving, that's distracted driving. You know, all that. But distracting walking, I think it's a good law in a way to make people be aware of the situations around them, because I've seen too many people walking and texting and they're walking right into a wall half the time, or walking into a car that's in the middle, that's going down the street at 30 miles per hour. So pedestrian safety is going to be a key, and it's up to the individual. But if it's not going to be up to the individual to be safe while they're walking, they're going to start making laws against certain things. So it's always best to use your head on certain situations and all that stuff. When I go off on my walk at night, I'm always aware of what's going on around me. I'm always aware of what's going on in the traffic. If they use their headlights on that. If they don't use their headlights, then I'm going to have a good chance getting hit by these drivers too. But even during the day, where it's most dangerous, because that's when you're dealing about 80% traffic boost. It's 80% more traffic during the day hours than there is at night. Not much traffic at night, but it jumps up big time, and that's why my safety is, as a pedestrian, is more at risk during the day hours than it is at night. So what do you guys think about it? Pedestrian safety. You guys are heavy walkers? Leave down comments down below. If you guys are driving, I've been behind the wheel of a car. One thing I always focus is where's the people around me doing? Who's coming up behind me? Who's ahead of me? Who's walking up and down that sidewalk? Who's going across in front of me? I gotta be, as a driver, I gotta be aware of that too. But a lot of people not paying attention because they choose to be on that cell phone all the time. About 90% of the day they want to be on that cell phone. I'll guarantee you, she's probably on the cell phone while sleeping, but I doubt if she is. So right now we're going to wrap up this video. Guys, what do you think about pedestrian safety? Should be, as far as what I know, is it should be up to the individual to decide if it's safe. Pedestrian crosswalks, if the pedestrian is in the crosswalk, pedestrian has the right of way. Do you agree or disagree with it? In Iowa, it's required for drivers to stop if the pedestrian is in the crosswalk. I've seen many violations and all that stuff. Because I may be guilty of it myself, but at least there was no pedestrians in the crosswalk at the time and that. So but if the pedestrian is in the crosswalk, yes, it is a violation in state law, under Iowa state law. Also in California state law, yeah, you better be opening up a bank account real fast, almost in a heartbeat. So what do you guys think? Pedestrian safety, when pedestrians don't pay attention, should we have laws to prevent distracted walking, especially i.e. the cell phones? What do you guys think? That's it. So, hey, if you like this little rant or chat, put a like on it, share this video, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time.